The saga begins. Begin war. I'll draw first blood, be the first to set it off. My cause, tap all jaws, lay down laws. We take it with yours, we do jokes, rust the doors.
What is up? I'm Fox. It's Tuesday. Welcome back to Foxy Games UK, your aggregate source of gaming news. And today I've got a video update for you regarding at least one possible reason Sony decided to abandon PlayStation experience this year. And if true, I've got to tell you, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But let's crack on in any event. Courtesy of GamingBulk.com, apparently Sony not hosting PSX 2018 is a cost-saving move, and it's not related to a PS5 reveal at all. So says Wedbush Securities industry analyst Michael Pachter, who has had quite a lot to say regarding PlayStation 5 recently. More specifically, Pachter believes Sony didn't deem the expense of a 2018 PSX event to be worth the benefits received. Here's the full story. So by now most of you, if not all, should be aware Sony recently made the huge announcement that they wouldn't be holding an annual event, PlayStation Experience, this year, stating that they didn't feel they had enough to announce at this stage to warrant an entire stage event being held. Now the announcement, to be fair, made some sense since most of Sony's biggest upcoming games for the foreseeable future, if not all of them, have already been announced in one form or the other. There has been much speculation that the reason Sony decided not to hold PSX this year is because they're gearing up for the launch of PlayStation 5, and it's not hard to see why people think why. It's no secret that the PS4 is in the final stages of its life cycle, termed the harvest period by senior Sony executives. However, according to industry analyst Michael Pachter, that's most likely not the case. Gaming Bulk recently spoke with Michael Pachter about his thoughts on the PSX announcement, and according to Pachter, this is most likely a cost-saving move and nothing more. Here's a quote. I'm sure it's just a cost-saving move. They probably decided to really move it to another year because the expense wasn't worth the benefits they got. No, I don't think it's related to the PS5 launch. Now, while Sony have decided to skip on having an event this year, November will see Microsoft bringing back EXO event, with other avenues also seemingly to be opened up for some interesting announcements. And that's where this news article ends. So look, here's the thing. Though he doesn't have the greatest track record in his predictions, and to some, Pachter is quite the polarizing character. Personally, I don't have an issue with the Pack, in spite of his hit and misses when making industry predictions. Now, in fairness to the man, his job is to read market trends, historical trends, and so forth, and is paid to make predictions, whether he is right or wrong. So it's probably unwise to take everything Pachter says as an absolute, stating that I don't buy that explanation at all. Sony wants to cut costs to save money. For what? If it's to save money, then it must be to prepare for really the next gen revelation. Whichever way you slice it, all roads lead to PlayStation 5. Of course, Sony are cutting back. They're cutting back on PS4 projects, obviously, because, surprise, surprise, resources are going into PS5's inevitable reveal and launch. After all, it's the start of a new PlayStation generation, and Sony knows they'll need to make a bigger splash than its closest rival, Microsoft. Yeah, sure, even if Sony are cost-cutting for reasons other than PS5, as Pachter suggests, it does seem like a pretty odd time for the company to do so, especially given Sony Japan just announced the price cut for PS4 Pro. Not exactly the best time to reduce earning potential on a Sony manufactured product. Given the fact that Sony are doing extremely well financially these days, it leads me to think that this supposed cost-cutting measure makes no sense at all. In fact, it only strengthens popular belief that Sony are diverting resources away from the PS4 and redistributing them into their next-gen platform. And if Sony does indeed have plenty of high caliber, not smaller to medium sized projects, but high caliber AAA PS4 exclusives on the scale of, say, God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn, and more recently Marvel's Spider-Man, well then, I guess it might make some sense that PlayStation 5 isn't coming until late 2020, but unfortunately there's no evidence to suggest that Sony do have these high caliber AAA exclusives on the horizon. Almost everything Sony has left in the tank for PS4 going forward has been revealed already. So I say almost because obviously there are unknowns, but I'm hardly going to talk about something that hasn't materialized yet. Several notable games are yet to be released on the PS4 and are expected at some point in 2019. The likes of God Eater 3, which is third party, Neo 2, again third party, Judge Eye's third party, Project Awakening third party, which are all niche titles, and Sony's Big Six, MLB The Show 19, Dreams, A Medieval Remake, Days Gone, The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and obviously the Death Stranding project by Hideo Kojima. These are all Sony first party. Sure, there are other titles coming from various publishers. Not all are exclusives, and many are lower profile titles not expected to appeal to the mass market, i.e. niche titles. Beyond that list, not a whole lot more is coming, and I can see Sony relying far more heavily on third-party publishers like Microsoft has for Xbox One to see off the PS4 in its twilight years. But what say you? Do you buy Michael Pachter's reasoning that PlayStation experience was canned this year as Sony are cutting costs? Even though, judging by last year's comparatively underwhelming, low-profile, muted PSX event, which was already fairly trimmed down to focus on a handful of Sony exclusives like Death Stranding, Spider-Man, Days Gone, and so forth, let us know in the comments. As usual, a link to all content covered today can be found in the video's description. Share your thoughts and opinions on today's news, because that unfortunately brings us to the end of another video, but let's continue the discussion in the comments. And for more PS4, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch news, subscribe to Foxy Games UK. Remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss content. Thumbs up if you like the video, and help us reach more like-minded gamers simply by sharing the video. If you really like what I do, show some love, support the cause. Consider supporting Foxy Games UK via Patreon. You'll find a link in this video's description, and you keep us honest. Much appreciated. And there we have it. Until next time, always remember, play games, not corporations.